hear it for Wethersfield, Windsor, and Hartford. Hip, hip, 1639. Because it was on January 14th of that year that representatives of those three towns gathered to write what would be the first constitution in what would become the United States of America, the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut. It seems old habits die hard. New habits, you may be thinking. Isn't this a novel, forward-looking approach that would eventually lead via the state constitutions to the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution of the United States of America, and this particularly American habit of relying upon social contracts among the people to create governments? Nope, I said old habits, and I meant old habits. The men and women who came to the British colonies in the New World, and most particularly who came to New England, were very proud of being free and understood freedom in a very specific sense, to mean that a compact among the citizens limited what government could do. Now, eventually they would come to understand this in significant measure through the analysis John Locke gives in his second treatise of government. But that was more than 50 years in the future when these delegates gathered and created the Fundamental Compact. Essentially, they did it because they were English, and the English had always done it that way. Now, you may be tempted to quibble that the first constitution in what would later become the United States was the Mayflower Compact. But I'm going to quibble right back at you. First of all, that was made on ship, not on the shore. But secondly, all it did was say they had the right to make laws. The Fundamental Orders of Connecticut actually do make laws. They create political offices, and they specify how the voting was going to be done. And in creating this, they were, of course, you know where I'm going with this, right? They were looking back to Magna Carta, to this specific understanding. Government isn't a contract between the citizens and the state. It's a contract among citizens laying out the powers of the state and retaining the right to alter or abolish the state if it becomes destructive of those ends. It's based on fundamental liberty. Now, it's easy to look at government in the United States today and say that it seems to be almost as badly off the rails as government in Canada or in Britain, to say nothing of what it's like outside the Anglosphere. And you'd be right about that. All kinds of pressures and deformations have eroded the foundations, which we actually share with them in significant measure. But that doesn't change the fact that those foundations were fundamentally right. They were historically right, they were theoretically right, they were grounded in an understanding of the dignity of man that is missing in much of the world and seems to me is being lost around us today. So that's why I say 3 cheers for Wethersfield, Windsor, and Hartford. Hip, hip, 2016.